Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Great to see people, or guess I can't actually see you, but very excited to have you. Alhamdulillah. Inshallah, we're just gonna give a little bit of time for people to get settled and arrive. Um, Alhamdulillah. Very exciting to have everyone. Let me maybe start sharing my slide deck. Sure. Oh, here we are. Okay, swap this around. Okay, alhamdulillah. Welcome everyone. So this is the topic for today, but while we are waiting, I was thinking that it would be nice if people could in the chat just share their name and where they're joining from. And then in a little bit I'm gonna turn on a poll as well, but I'm gonna wait for some more people. So in the chat and try to send it to everyone. Please write where you're naming where you're joining from. Texas, Arsalam from Texas, Virginia, Andover, Mass, Illinois, California. They're coming in too fast for me. Let's see. MashaAllah, we have more Boston, San Diego, Ohio, California. Ooh, a lot of California, MashaAllah. Virginia, some more Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Foxborough, Manchester. Ooh, UK, nice. We have some internationals. Massachusetts, some more California. Ooh, Tennessee. Oh, and I know who that is. That's my niece over there, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum. Another Tennessee, mashallah. What else do we have? California, Massachusetts, mashallah. Both coasts are well represented. Methuen, Maryland, very exciting. New Hampshire, trying to look for new ones. Rhode Island, mashallah. Beautiful. Inshallah, it's amazing. There, we already have over 100 people here. We had, I don't even know how many people signed up. There were over 360 people the last time I checked. So clearly, mashallah, lots of people coming in. In terms of some logistics, the chat is there for us to use. Try not to spam the chat, as sometimes happens in these, where some kids like to just type a million crazy things. But it's definitely a great place. I there are some people here who will help alert me to things if they come up in the chat. I think my wife's going to just sort of text me, and another brother is going to do that. But the Q&A, which you also see, try to use this one when I'm speaking today and questions come up and you want to ask your question, please put it in the Q&A. And I believe if I set it up correctly, you can upvote questions so you can be sure to get to those. I'll definitely stay as long as I need to answer every single question that you might have. But please use the Q&A for that and the chat for this. That way we all see it. MashaAllah, so some more Californias, North Carolina, MashaAllah. Okay, let me see if I can turn on this poll. I believe this is it. Yep. Okay, so I just want to see who is with us. We have 120 people now. So you should see a poll. Did it launch? Yep, I see some people answering it. So this is going to tell us who is with us today. I'll give you at least a minute or so. 40% voted, 50% voted. Inshallah. Excellent. Let's see. Okay. So I think we're just about done, about 75% voted. I'm gonna close it in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So let's see. Um, so I still haven't fixed this. So middle school students, sorry, that came up twice. The second one was supposed to say high school students. So my bad. But we have a pretty even match mix between students and parents, actually slightly higher on the student side, which is exciting. What grade is your oldest child in? So not too many seniors. That does not surprise me because mashallah, they're already through the college process. A pretty good mix, but a lot of people in the ninth grade, younger grades, mashallah. And then what kind of school? This one's always interesting to me. So we have public school, Islamic school, quite a big contingent, mashallah. Some private schools, some homeschools, and some people are in college and so on. All right, it's always interesting to see where people are from. So inshallah, let's get going. So just to go back over today's topic, why is this not? So why summers can make or break college applications. Okay, so this is what we're here. Obviously, we're on the cusp of the summer. I know this was one. Some of you have already started your summer, and other people, it's about to happen. But we're going to talk today about why the summer is one of the most critical times to get started with your application and everything. All right. So before we start, let's just start with the conscious Bismillah, refresh our niyyah. Just we're here for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, He's the one who will help us get into college. But let's just say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Okay, let's get going. So, what is the goal of the summer? Right? So the goal of this whole summer, and I'm trying to get a nice little animation for this, but it's not quite ready yet. But it's to use this summer to become a magnetic Muslim. Okay, so what does this mean? What is a magnetic Muslim? Right? So uh, what most people do, the big mistake that most families make, the question that I get day after day is, will this look good for college? Right? People come to me and they ask me, should I do this summer? Would that look good or would this look better? Right? That's just fundamentally not the right question, right? Because what you're doing there is you're giving colleges all the power. You're ceding all the power over to the colleges and you're trying to shape yourself into what you think someone else is going to like. And the reality is you need to do the exact opposite. Why chase after the colleges when you can have them come chasing you? If you become a magnetic Muslim, if you have that personality that draws the colleges towards you, right? That you are someone who's so centered and has such strong iman and so mission focused and is just looks different than all the other candidates. The colleges are going to come running after you. And that is the real goal, right? That was the dawah of the Sahaba. The Sahaba did not go and give long speeches and so on. They simply went and they said, Kunu mithlana, be like us. Right? This was the dawah of the Sahaba. Right? So inshallah, this is what we need to do. We need to become the best versions of ourselves so that colleges desperately want us on their campuses. And the single best time to do that is the summertime. Right? And the single best way to do that, which we'll get into later, is how launching a passion project is the single most important thing you could do to launch the college admissions needle. Okay. So just a little bit about me. I know some of you are familiar with me. You've been coming to these, but mashallah, we had a lot of new registrations for this webinar. As I said, we had more than 360 people register, and there are a lot of new people. So just a very quick background about me. So I consider myself a Mayflower Muslim. Alhamdulillah, both my mother's side and father's side, our ancestry goes back to the Mayflower. Alhamdulillah, I accepted Islam at the age of 15 when I was in 1994. Alhamdulillah, I went on to study at Harvard, where I studied Near Eastern languages and civilizations. And then after a brief career in Islamic finance, I began a career as a teacher and educator. And I've taught all over the world. I've taught in the Emirates. I've taught in Morocco, taught at private schools. I've taught at Islamic schools. We homeschooled our children. So I know quite a lot about education, alhamdulillah. And the last 10, 11 years, I worked at New England's first full-time K through 12 Islamic school. Right. And this school, mashallah, even though, like many Islamic schools, it has very limited funding and it doesn't have the same resources as the public schools, or certainly not the type of private schools that I went to and taught at, right? We, year after year, alhamdulillah, are matching or surpassing all those other schools in terms of our college admissions. The very first student I ever had to place in college got in early to Harvard, and since that time, we've sent students to all of the best schools in the country, MIT and almost all of the Ivies and everything else, right? And so, alhamdulillah, I realized, after doing this for 10 years, that I developed a real strength in helping Muslim students discover their qibla, discover who they are, and then help them launch them towards the next step, towards college. And so I founded this company called Five Before College, and I'm going to go into why we called it Five Before College. But the main goal is to help Muslim teenagers get into the college of their dreams, but more importantly, to launch them towards success both here in this world, but also in the akhirah. So why Five Before College? So there are two main reasons for it. First of all, one of the biggest mistakes that Muslim families make is they don't start thinking about this college process until it's too late. And if nothing else, I want to change that. And people ask me, obviously, when should I start thinking about college, right? And the answer is not when, your child is, in third grade or kindergarten or so on. You can think about it, and you probably should. The best thing you can do is maybe start to save some money for it. But the best time to really get serious and start thinking more strategically is when they get to middle school, specifically 5 years before college. That goes back to eighth grade, right? So eighth grade is sort of like the practice year before you hit the ground in ninth grade. But ninth and 10th grade are often these neglected things, and so what happens with many college counselors is people don't come to them until they're in 11th and 12th grade, and no matter how good we are at our job, we can't go back and change history. We can't give you advice like I'm giving you today, how to spend the summer after your eighth grade or ninth grade or 10th grade year, right? There's no magic wand. So the first thing is starting early, specifically 5 years early. The other thing is that we base all of our work on, Islamic guidance and Islamic guidelines, specifically the five before five hadith. So one of my favorite hadiths is the Prophet ﷺ taught us, take the benefit of five before five. Take advantage of five things before five other things. Right? I actually started a newsletter on Substack called Five Before Five that now has thousands of readers. And in it, I just reflect on these different things. So in this hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ said, take advantage of five before five, your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before your busyness, and your life before your death. And in this, there is a comprehensive advice for teenagers about how to get the most out of their high school experience. So the first is youth before old age. Your full-time job as a student is to focus on your academics, right? As much as I'm going to talk about many things other than academics today, especially in the summer, right? Academics are the first and foremost thing that colleges look for, and you want to try to do as well as you can. And the single best advice I can give you about how to do better academically is to simply read. Whenever I find a student who is a reader, I know that it will be very easy for them to place them in college. Reading is so critically important. Health before sickness, right? We need to take care of not just our mind, right, but also our body, right? We need to engage in sports and exercise and other athletic activity, and then also do things for our mental health, right? If we don't take care of those things, then we are not going to be fully ready. And again, many Muslims, especially Muslim girls, are not getting enough exercise. They're not getting exposed to this. They're not getting, the opportunities to play sports. For boys, it's absolutely critically important, right? If you want to get your children off of video games and off of the screen time, you need to give them an alternative, and one of the best alternatives is physical activity and team sports, and so on. Next, we have wealth before poverty, right? And this is a really important one for summertime, especially, right? We should be exploring during high school. We should be exploring our future careers, right? We should be learning about how money works. One of the crazy things to me is that most schools don't teach the most important skills. They don't teach you how to manage your money. They don't really teach you how to make money, right? It's all theoretical, right? We want to give people practical guidance and let them actually explore careers while they're in high school, so that when they hit the real world, they can be successful. Your free time before your busyness, right? So critical, and again, so relevant for summer. During the year, students are so busy, and they're going from APs to extracurriculars to all sorts of things. In the summer, suddenly there's this huge gap of time, and you have this free time, but how you choose to spend that free time, right, will have a huge impact both on your dunya and certainly your akhirah, right? It's the free time that can get us in trouble, right? The idle mind is the devil's workshop, as they say, right? And one of the most important parts of your free time is your suhbah, your friendship. And do you have friends that are helping you and pushing you closer to Allah, are helping you be more ambitious with your hayat dunya, and this sort of thing? And then finally, your life before death, right? That this is the most important one. This is where our Islam and our character, akhlaq, right? These are some of the most important qualities that we need to develop, and this is one of the real focuses. And actually, once you get through the academic screening, it's this quality more than any other that colleges are looking for. They're going to find it in your essay, they're going to find it in your recommendation letters from your teachers, and they're going to find it in just the way you present yourself, and the way the values that you show through the actions that you've taken. Right. So, alhamdulillah, this formula works. The 5 before college formula works. These are some of the many schools that we've sent our students off to. Alhamdulillah, it's been very successful. Let me see if this works. I hope the audio works. This is a college reveal video. I don't know. If you guys are able to do like the emoji thing, if this is working, and like a bad emoji thing if it's not, and then I can share the sound. But let's start. Oh, sorry. When I clicked there, it stopped. Okay, so let me see. Did it work? I think, oh, there's no sound. So, see, I tried to figure that out. Okay. That was what the wow was. I thought you were wowed by the students. Okay, let me stop sharing. We're gonna try this one more time. Sorry about that. This is the beautiful things. There we go. Share sound. Share. Okay, and then we go back. All right, let's do it one more time. Sorry about that.
This coming fall, I will be
Working?
attending
The
Yes.
college I'm going to be going to.
The college that I am committed to, inshallah, is
Elon University,
Leslie University,
Brandeis, inshallah.
Northeastern University.
Boston University.
Inshallah, I'll be going to Williams College, everybody.
Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Dartmouth College.
Wellesley College.
We're going to UMass Amherst.
Northeastern University.
New York Stony Brook University.
Simmons University.
UMass Boston,
Massachusetts College of Art and Design.
Northwestern University.
UMass Amherst.
I am continuing the tradition of going to college, and I'm going to Brown University.
Okay. Let's see. Did it work that time? Let me go back to the chat. Video is laggy. Okay. But alhamdulillah, there aren't any negative emotions and emojis. All right. Cool. Well, we did our best, alhamdulillah, with what we can. If anyone has not seen this book before, these are 11 mistakes Muslim families make when applying to college. Let me see if I can get this into the chat. Of course, they don't let you just do it the easy way. Here we go. Copy and put that in the chat. Okay, so that should allow you to download the book if you have not yet seen it. Let's get going again. Oh boy, now it's doing that other thing. You gotta love technology. All right, so I'm gonna keep on going. So this is the framework for today. This is what we're gonna be talking about. So the first part is this, just some sort of big picture ideas about planning a game-changing summer. Then I'm going to talk about the 5 types of summers, right? 5 types of ways of planning your summer. Then we'll talk about how to build a path to Jannah during the summer. And finally, or not finally, habits and routines to maximize the productivity this summer. And finally, the best activity of all and how we can help. So let's get into it. Bismillah. So first of all, the big picture, right? They say the 10,000-foot view. Like a lot of times people are so, thinking about this program versus that program and what should I do, right? They don't really zoom out and see the forest. They're stuck in the trees. So when you can't see the forest for the trees, go for a walk in the forest. Very good, good advice. All right. So failing to plan is planning to fail, right? This is something you may have heard before, and there's lots of truth in it. But failing to plan is definitely is planning to fail. And let me just, sorry, I see lots of messages in the chat. The QR code didn't work. SubhanAllah. All right, sorry about all that. Inshallah, yes, I will be sharing the slides and the recording of this and a follow-up, and I can make sure to get all the slides right. I mean, the links right in that. All right, so failing to plan is planning to fail. So if you don't have some sort of plan of how you're going to spend your summer and you suddenly have all this free time after being so busy, then you're probably going to not accomplish very much. And if you look back at previous summers, you can probably see a lot of squandered time. I look at my own previous summers, right? And there were a lot of times where I didn't accomplish that much because I didn't sit down in the beginning of the summer and really set goals and think about what am I trying to achieve. On the other hand, if you over plan and you overscheduled, right, then that is also that's also a problem, right? I'm sort of saying 2 contradictory things. On the one hand, you definitely have to plan. On the other hand, don't really plan, right? But what I mean is you have to find that thing in the middle, right? So you do enough planning, but you leave in time for serendipity. You leave in time for free time. You don't overschedule. And most importantly, you leave time for fun, right? Summer is supposed to be fun, right? So don't when students or parents come to me and they say my child's taking the SAT course and then they're taking 3 dual enrollment classes and then they're going to do this program, I look at the kid and deep down I feel like, subhanAllah, this child is under so much pressure, right? It's very difficult. Summer should be fun. Summer is not necessarily a time to just keep on working on your mind. Work on all the other parts of being young and so on. All work and no play make Ahmed a dull boy, as they say. So the other thing is setting clear goals, right? So set clear goals. So only about 20% of the population sets any sort of goals, right? And of those who set any goals, only 15% write them down. And there was a study by Harvard Business School. I don't know how accurate it is, but it said that they looked at the Harvard Business School, and in the graduating class, the 3% of people who actually wrote their goals down ended up making 10 times more than the other 97% combined. Right? So the 3% of Harvard Business School graduates who wrote their goals down and had a very clear vision of what they were trying to do with their life, right, had 10 times more earning over the course of their lives than the 97% of their classmates. And Harvard Business School people are, very, very successful. So set specific and challenging goals. Don't just do your best. And we'll talk more about what that might look like later. Okay, the other issue, paint by numbers planning doesn't lead to masterpieces. I really like this metaphor. So the paint by numbers, right, if you're familiar with it, right, it's something they give to kids or their adult coloring books and so on, but they tell you which color you should put here, and then you go and you paint it, and then at the end, it's a picture. It's a nice picture, right? They look nice. If your child does it when they're 5 or 6, you're like, mashallah, that's beautiful and so on. But you're not seeing these things in museums, right? Van Gogh didn't paint by numbers, right? Leonardo da Vinci didn't paint by numbers. If you want a masterpiece, you have to start with a blank canvas, right? So you can't just use a template for what someone else did for their summer. Oh, I know this girl, she got into Harvard, so I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, I know this person, he was so successful, I'm going to do the same thing. No, that thing which they did was probably perfect for them. That doesn't mean it's perfect for you. So don't just try to follow other people's roadmaps. You're looking to find your own compass, right? You're looking to figure out a way to find your way to what makes you tick and what works for you, right? And so hobbies and things that you do purely because you love them can be more important and can hold more weight than APs, right? And the things that you guys stress out so much. I'm not saying not to do APs. If you are planning to apply to highly competitive colleges, you're going to have to do APs and so on. Inshallah, if you can put your questions in the Q&A chat, that would be great. If you do need to do APs and so on, but the thing you're very rarely going to talk about in an essay about your APs or something like that. Whereas those things which you do because they light you up and they get you into that flow state, those are the things that you're going to end up talking about. Another major big picture concept, right, that people misunderstand is that happiness fuels success, not the other way around. Conventional wisdom says that if we work hard, then we're going to be successful. And if we're successful, then we'll become happy, right? That's what we've all taught. That's what we teach our kids. That's what society teaches us. You work hard so that you can go to a good college. You go to a good college so you can get a good job. And then you are quote unquote successful. And once you become successful, then lo and behold, you'll be happy, right? The actual research, right? This is an amazing book, The Happiness Advantage by Sean Achor, a professor at Harvard Business School, right? Is actually the exact opposite. What it says is that when you find things that make you happy, and then you go and do those things, right? That is what ultimately brings you towards success and leads you to success. Because when something makes you happy, then you can invest your whole self in it and you get to be world class in that thing. And when you have a world class skill, no matter what it is, then you can be very successful. And you're doing something that aligns with who you are. And so you're going to be much happier, right? And so happiness is also derived from the sense of fulfilling our purpose, right? And Islam, alhamdulillah, spells out exactly what our purpose is. مَا خَلَقْتَ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't create us, the mankind or the jinn kind, except for his worship. So we know what our purpose is, right? We know what we are. But there's this triangle over here. It seems like a very simple graphic. This is sort of one of the keys to, all of life. Who I am, what I believe, and what I'm doing. When those three things align, right? Who I am a believing Muslim. What I believe, right? I believe that there's Jannah, there's Jahannam. I believe that we need to do good deeds, and so on. And then what I'm doing, I'm actually doing a lot of things that are not connected to that. I'm doing things which are, which I feel guilty about, which I am ashamed in front of Allah about. I'm doing things which are different than the values which I say that I have. When you have that disconnect between what you believe and what you're doing, you're suffering from something called cognitive dissonance, and it's the ticket to, a lack of satisfaction. So if you want to be happy, you need to figure out a way to align all these things, and especially find a way to align what you're doing, how you're actually spending your time, your free time in the summer, with who you are, not just as a Muslim, but as a person, and where your skills are. Another big concept is that we should invest in our strengths. Right? A lot of people, right? Every single person has strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes people ask me, what is it better to invest in your strengths or fix your weaknesses? Almost inevitably, in almost every situation, it's better, especially in the summertime, to invest in your strengths, right? Go deep. right? I've said this many times before that colleges are not looking for well-rounded students. They're looking for pointy students. They're looking for students who have exceptional skills in one or two different areas, right? They're looking to enroll a well-rounded class. Right? So if you look in this AI generated picture, you have people of all sorts of different abilities. You have the STEM people, you have the humanities people, you have the, people of different abilities. They want all those people on campus, but you yourself, right? If you're the STEM person, you should be an off the chart STEM person, right? If you're an artist, you should have gone really, really deep in that and have an amazing portfolio, right? So you want to spend the summer investing in things that you already enjoy, that you're already probably somewhat good at, and that you want to become better at, and you want to go towards becoming, inshallah, world class at. Right? And the 9th and 10th grade summers are hidden jewels in this whole process because many people don't really start thinking about college until it's too late. Like I said, they sort of squander their summers after 8th grade, after 9th grade, after 10th grade. They're not really pushing themselves. They don't know what to do. And that's why I'm having this webinar, right? To help you get some ideas about things you could possibly do this summer. Right. And then this one's a little more philosophical. I'm reading this book right now, or listening to it actually. It's called The Lion Tracker's Guide to Life. So this guy, Boyd Vardy, he was a lion tracker inside of South Africa, and he would be very good at finding where the lions go by reading the signs, right? By looking at the footprints and then all sorts of other natural signs. And he has an amazing quote. He says, "I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there." I don't know where I'm going. So when he sets out in the morning to find the lions, to bring the tourists to the lions, he doesn't know where he's going to end up. He doesn't know where that day is going to bring him, but he knows exactly how to get there. Why? Because he knows how to read the signs, because he's been doing it so long, right? So it's the same thing with our own lives, right? We might not know where we're going, right? As much as I want to help students find their purpose and find their mission, to tell them this is the job you're going to be doing when you're 45 years old, that would be educational malpractice on my part, right? Because the reality is the jobs that they are probably going to do at that time probably haven't been invented yet, right? And so you can't necessarily get so specific, but you can learn how to follow the breadcrumbs and be able to find your way, to track your way towards the success and so on. So for example, I'll give you an example. When I was in college, alhamdulillah, or going back a little, I became Muslim in large part through the effort of the Tablighi Jamaat, those brothers. And it's a long story of how that came, but the person who introduced me to Islam was influenced by them. And then later, that was my sort of first intro to Islam. And one of the things that they really highly recommend is that people spend 4 months fi sabilillah, as they say, traveling in the path of Allah. So when I was at Harvard, and all of the in the springtime of your senior year, all of the big companies are coming, the consulting companies, the Wall Street firms, and Microsoft and Google and so on. They're coming on campus and they're trying to hire all the college people. My goal at that point was to go for 4 months, to go to India and Pakistan and learn more about my deen and deepen my understanding of and deepen my faith, right? And I think I made a mistake in this sense that I didn't really go to those job fairs and line something up for after that. On the other hand, I didn't make it a mistake at all by choosing to do what I did. But then when I was there, as I look back on it, one of the things, it pushes you out of your comfort zone a lot. One of the things they're often doing when you're on Jamaat is they're forcing you to speak in front of crowds, right? And I remember how scared I was the first time I had to give the bayan, so to speak, right? Where there's a big group in the masjid, right? And then they push you onto the stage to speak. But over time, I came to actually enjoy that. I realize, and this is what I'm talking about, following the signs. I realized that actually public speaking, teaching people, talking about my faith, inspiring people, to become better Muslims. These are the things which light me up. These are the things which make me the most happy. And these are the things which ultimately I've built my career around, and why I am so happy to be here with, almost 200 young Muslims and Muslim parents, helping you guys do all these things. But if I look back on my life and think, what was the most formative stuff that I did? Those are the things. So this is the sort of thing that I help students do, is just get the tools to track those signs in their life, to be able to find, what they're looking for. Okay, another big picture idea is interact with the real world, right? School is very much an artificial environment, right? We have grades in school, and alhamdulillah, I was always a very good student. Grades were, something that I excelled in. But the further I get from school, the more I realize how meaningless some of these measures are, right? You really, if you want to be successful, right, not just in the artificial school environment, but in the real world, you need to get interacting with the real world early. Right? And the summer is a great time to do that. There's a book called Why A Students Work for C Students, and then the subtitle is And B Students Work for the Government, which I always thought was a little funny. But why A students work for C students, right? A students, mashallah, they always follow the rules. They're always doing exactly what the teacher asks. They're very good at playing the game, but staying within the lines. The C students often think outside the box, right? Sometimes it's not that they have any less intellect or anything like that. It's just that school sort of bores them, because they get that it's not really the real world. They're more interested in tackling, real things. And they're used to failing. They're used to not, feeling that if I don't do well, then I'm a bad person. They're more resilient in that way. So then when they do hit the real world, they're willing to take chances, right? And they're willing to fail, and it doesn't destroy them when something goes badly. They don't get the first no and then run away and never ask again, right? And it doesn't need to be this way. The best possible scenario is an A student who's a top flight student, who's off to an Ivy school, who has this mentality, the same real world skills, where they can go off and really change things. Those are the real world movers, right? So there's a great book called Educating Your Child in Modern Times, written by John Taylor Gatto and Hamza Yusuf and a few other people. And if any of you are readers and are interested in sort of the philosophy of raising children and school, and what school is doing to rid our children of their creativity and so on, this is a great book, and I highly recommend it. All right, so now let's get into the 5 types of summers. Let me just go quickly into the chat, make sure nothing horrible is happening. Pointy, what do you mean? Put those kinds of chats in the questions in the chat. Okay, the other people helped answer a lot of the questions. Jazakallah khair. The 5 types of summers. Bismillah. All right. So, and these are not mutually exclusive. You can do more than one of these types of summers, but these are just big prototypes of types of summer. So there's the pleasant summer, right? The pleasant summer, I would say this is what I've done for a lot of my adult life. Alhamdulillah, we spend the summers up in Maine, and I do a lot of things. These are both pictures from Acadia National Park, going off, hiking, being in nature, spending time at the beach, just relaxing, right? And this is not haram, right? This is okay. This is good. You need that break, right? Our cell phones, right? They start to lose their battery, so we plug them in. We also need to plug in. So you need to set aside some time in the summer to do things which are genuinely fun, right? And genuine, that you really look forward to, right? But if the only thing you do is the pleasant summer, then you're probably not maximizing it, and it's probably definitely not the way to maximize your your summer profile for college. The next one is the engaged summer, right? Where you get engaged in something, right? So the way this would show up is doing a lot of reading, right? I didn't I don't have them with me right here, but I'm happy to share with people. I have some great summer reading lists that I put together when I was teaching at the Islamic school. And summer reading is, reading in the summer. One thing that I recommend for younger students or even high school students is reading biographies, right? It's really interesting. You get a lot of benefit from reading the biographies of people that you look up to, and you learn a lot about how they thought about the world and how the sorts of experiences that led them to be who they are. So that's something you can do. Writing, right? A few years ago, I got this crazy idea. One of my students challenged me. They said, "Brother Hamza, you always teach us about how to write the college essay, but you've never actually written one yourself and showed us, right? You're telling us, you're not showing us, right?" So I decided on a whim to write 30 college essays in 30 days. And then in 1 month, I managed to write 30 of these essays. Those are available on my website. Maybe if Ruhina's here, you can go into my hamzahenshaw.com and find that link and you can put it in the chat. But you don't need to write college essays, especially if you're in 8th or 9th grade, but you should be writing. You should be journaling. You should be doing things like that. Writing is the best way to clarify your thinking, right? And writing in public is one of the best things you can do, right? Trying to develop some sort of a personal brand, right? I can't tell you what writing on the internet has done for me, right? I've gone from just working within an Islamic school and making a huge impact on a very narrow part of the world to having, mashallah, a very large email list, to having, hundreds and hundreds of people coming to these events, to running, inshallah, a successful business, largely simply by taking the ideas that I've been thinking in my head for all these years and actually putting them out there and sharing them with the world, right? Some people might be more video makers or other things, but don't just take and take and take. Create, right? That's how what you can do. Figure out ways to create and put things out there to the world. And the internet's a great way to figure out what resonates with other people. Other things, watch TED Talks, use all these amazing technology to actually deepen your brain and improve yourself. Study your parents' language. There are a lot of people, they're Indian or Pakistani, and their parents speak to them in Urdu, but they always reply in English, right? I'm sure there are probably some people like this. Same thing with Arabic, right? The family traditionally historically speaks Arabic. They might know some, they've memorized some Quran, but they're not really fluent in their parents' language. When they go home in the summers, it's a little bit difficult for them to communicate and so on. One of the best things you can do is work on a language, or it could be another language, Chinese, Japanese, some other random language. The languages actually are incredibly beneficial. They do help you stand out, especially when they're a little bit unusual. And the main thing is just getting into that flow state. I thought I had a slide about flow state, but I think I didn't put it in here. But getting into that flow state where you really feel this. All right, the relational summer. Okay, this is a summer focused on relationships. So a lot of people, alhamdulillah, like I said, they have family back home, and the summer is an amazing opportunity to go back home. Right. So I'm sure if I did some sort of a poll here, there would be a lot of you who would be doing some traveling to visit family back home. That is a wonderful thing to do. Right. Don't think that you are missing out on, getting ready for college because you went home and saw your family and you're mad at your parents for forcing you to do that. Right. It's really not like that. Of course, if the whole summer is over there and you don't have a chance to do other things, there can be, some caveats, but in general, it's family ties, silat rahim, so important, right? But also think about other relationships you can have. Take a class in something like tabla or ceramics or some sort of art class. Do something that's a fun sort of hobby-like thing, but where you're actually going to improve your skills in those things, right? Summer camp, right? Summer camp was a huge part of my life. I went to sleepaway summer camp for 4 years. Then I did 2 different programs with them. One I went to Japan, one I went to South Dakota, and then I was what do you call it? CIT counselor in training and a counselor. So about 7 or 8 of the most formative summers I ever spent were spent in Western Massachusetts, living in nature, no technology, just sort of being a kid and being an adult, supervising kids, and just doing that. It can be incredibly powerful, and so on. Those are great things to do. You form those relationships, and just generally spend time with your friends and family. You don't have that much time during the school year. All right, so that's relational summer. Then we have the meaningful summer, right? This is where we focus on doing things that mean a lot to us. So, for example, one fun sort of project you could do is you could try to do one good deed a day. Sorry, it should say good deed per day, and then create a blog about it or create a YouTube series about it, right? People do things like this, like my 30 essays in 30 days. Come up with some sort of 30 for 30 challenge about something that's meaningful for you, and then do it. But do something that's all your own, or something. Raise money for Gaza, right? One of my closest friends, Chris Blavelt, he founded LaunchGood, and I just went onto the LaunchGood site and grabbed just a tiny handful of the many different fundraisers that they have going there, right? And you can see some of those have raised close to $100,000 and so on, right? Learning, obviously helping the people of Gaza, right? But then also learning the digital marketing skills and other things that you need in order to get a fundraiser off the ground, right? To organize it. These are incredibly beneficial and deeply meaningful because they resonate with your values, right? You can set a big goal, a stretch goal, like memorizing Surah Baqarah, right? Or some sort of other Islamic goal like that, right? And that's going to infuse your summer with meaning. And finally, the accomplished summer, right? So this is the one that I think a lot of families who have high college aspirations think a lot about. These are things like taking summer school classes, right? So taking dual enrollment classes, going and doing those college programs where you actually live on college campuses and take courses, applying for competitive internships, shadowing professionals on the job, getting a real job, right? Actually, like getting a job that actually pays you money, right? Or building real world skills. Those are all things that you put in like the accomplishment side of things. What I would say about this is these can be good things. Summer school classes, like dual enrollment classes, if you're not going to do anything else, then by all means, that's much better than just sitting along at home. But if you're already a pretty good student and you have sort of the academic box checked, it's much better to use the summer to explore some other part of your personality, something else that you're really interested in, right? Because colleges, like I said, academics is just part of the puzzle, one piece of the puzzle. With the sort of pay to play programs where you have to pay quite a bit of money to be on campus, again, that gives you a great taste of what college is like. It can help you, really know whether you want to live on campus when you do go to college. It definitely gives you some of those relationships with other people. But it's really a family decision. I think, if the financial side of things is not as much an issue, those can be really great programs. But there are lots of other things you can do in the summer that maybe are not quite as pricey that can be beneficial. Internships are wonderful. Okay, I'm going to show you a slide that actually says that internships are the single best thing you could do in the summer. Unfortunately, summer internships, the competitive ones, the applications start as early as January and are almost all done by March or early April, right? So this is a note to self for next year, right? That if you want to do these summer internships, some of which are even paid internships, but they're competitive, they're research positions, they're at hospitals, they're at Dana-Farber, or at different institutions. They're highly competitive, and you need to start really early. Getting a real job. Let me see if this video works. Hopefully, I'm still sharing the sound, so hopefully it will.
College. Here is one excellent summer activity.
Let's try that again.
Get a paid job. Work in a restaurant, sell surfboards, do construction. Skeptical? Let me explain. First, think about the essays that you're going to write for college in a few months. Imagine you want to study marketing or behavioral psychology. Maybe you start an essay off about your job stocking shelves at CVS. Then you start talking about how you discovered the science behind stocking shelves, why high-priced items are put at eye level, how promotions take advantage of what psychologists call anticipatory regret, aka FOMO. There's nothing sexier than taking what seems like an everyday topic and showing how you're the type of student who can learn from and say smart things about anything, even stocking shelves. Second, admission officers, they see these students who do research and found clubs all day long. I'm not saying don't do that, but adding some work to your resume might be a smart idea. Because at the best schools, it's unusual to see a student who has the academic firepower, but also works a paid job. It shows that you're not entitled, you're a hard worker. You've gone through what I think all Americans should go through, a customer service experience. AOs love kids like that. And third, this is good for you as a person. You'll make some money, you meet colleagues from different backgrounds, and this might surprise you, but if you
sorry, finished. I wanted to tell a quick little story about this. There's one college that a lot of my students from my school had applied to, and this was the first year anyone got in there. And that college is University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. One of the best public schools out there. Very competitive school. But for some reason, we weren't able to crack that nut. I sent many great students, close to perfect GPAs and so on. So the student who got in this year actually has a GPA well below 3.0, like quite a low GPA. And the key to why she got in is that this idea of a job. She has worked since early on in the pandemic, or even pre-pandemic, at one of the best steakhouses in Boston. It's one of the highest end restaurants in Boston. And she sort of worked her way up, and she became a server, and she mastered the art of being just a really good server, waitress, right? Where she takes care of the clients. She has regular clients. They know who she is, and they want to give her a good tip because she gives them such a great time. When we were doing our sort of I was getting ready to write her recommendation letter, I asked her about this and so on. And one of the reasons her grades weren't as good is because she was working a lot. And I said, how is that going? She said, well, the money's pretty good. And I said, can you give me some specifics? Right? I have to dig into these things. So she said, well, I usually make between $15,000 to $30,000 a month. And I was like, excuse me, come again? $15,000 to $30,000 a month? Right? I was like, I know you're a very trustworthy person, but I really don't believe you. So she goes into her bank app, she takes screenshots, and sure enough, every single month she's making these huge amounts of money, literally between 15 to, she had like a $35,000 a month. And so when I'm writing her college essay and I say, listen, I know this girl, that her grades aren't quite as as stellar as some other people have been, but she has incredible street smarts and real world abilities, and she's already making a lot more money than a lot of college grads do 5-10 years after their graduation. So I think she's going places. You might want to take another look. I didn't expect UMich to be the one that would take another look, but sure enough, she got into almost all the schools she applied to, including University of Michigan. So, in other words, that's a bit of an extreme example, but getting a summer job can make a big difference. All right, this is a chart that I found. What admissions officers value the most? So there was a survey of something like 100 different admissions officers, and this is what actually came up, that indeed internships, independent research, then we have that traditional paid job, right? Academic programs for credit, language, immersion, study abroad, arts, theater, music, and then community service. Notice that, yes, there is sort of a hierarchy there, but they're all pretty highly rated, right? What's not rated on here that I think is even more important is when you're in a category of one. You can't have a category here because they've never seen the thing that you do, right? And that's sort of what the passion project allows you to do. So hopefully this QR code will work. And let me put this in. So we, like, literally earlier today, one of the brothers who's helping me out and working with 5 Before College created this new Facebook group. And I believe right now there are 2 members, and one of them is me. I am about to launch this. This is like a world premiere launch of this Facebook group. I'm a part of a lot of, and this is actually something I advise you to do. As much as I don't love Facebook and social media, there are a lot of great college groups on there, and you can learn a lot. I run a WhatsApp group called Path to College. I'm sure some of you on this call are from that group. It's an amazing resource. Unfortunately, we hit 1,024 people. We can't accept more people, so I'm going to sort of move the sort of big community towards Facebook. So I would love it if you join this. We are going to make a lot of efforts to fill this group and get as many Muslim parents as we can, and just provide a space for people to ask questions and people to answer questions, share their perspective. I've been doing this a long time, but you guys, the parents and the students, know so much as well. And I really want there to be a collaborative place where we can help the ummah rise and so on. So I'm hoping and praying that this college planning for Muslim families, can become that group. So definitely, if you're able to join, you can. I think there are a few questions just so we can keep like the bots out. But hopefully that works. And if it doesn't, I will make sure to give good instructions in the follow-up email. All right, let's get back into this. Why are you not sharing? Share. Oh, it is sharing. Okay. So now, how to build a path to Jannah in the summer. MashaAllah. This is really the most important thing we could do, of course. So one thing is this hierarchy of intentions, right? When you're setting your intentions, right, whatever you do, even if you're doing a paid job, right, even if you're working towards getting into college, right, try to set intentions at this top level. So whatever you're doing, try to be seeking spiritual contentment. Try to be having a niyyah to seek paradise, and above all, make sure your niyyah is to please Allah. Right? If we make that the foundation, we say Bismillah, and everything that we're doing in the summer has that niyyah, then that is going to bring barakah, and that is going to open up doors and so on. So that's the first thing. Obviously, innamal a'malu bin-niyyah. So set a high niyyah. Next, there are a lot of wonderful summer programs, and this is again where in that Facebook group people can share other ones that they know of, right? These are some. I'm not going to put all the links because it will take a little while, but you can Google them if you want. Mina Summer Camp is a wonderful place. Dar es Salaam has some great summer programs in Chicago. The Alim Summer Program, Qalam Institute, Yaqeen. There's so many great new organizations that are very forward-thinking places with real Islamic scholarship, but also that provide great summer experiences. And this is something that I wish that I could have done when I was younger. They didn't really, they weren't nearly as advanced and so on. So that's a great thing to potentially do with your summer. And there are many, many more out there like that. Other things, the barakah of grandparents, right? So the summer is an amazing time to spend time with your grandparents, right? But when you spend time with your grandparents, especially this is for the students that I'm speaking to, learn their stories. Make sure to talk to them, right? That's why I said it's so important to learn their language and be able to communicate with them if they speak a different language. Do their khidmah, right? Give them a massage of their legs. They've been in this world a long time. They know a lot, right? Take care of them. Do what we're supposed to do as Muslims. Do some interviews with them, right? I lost my dad earlier this year, and one of my biggest regrets is that I don't have videos of me having conversations with my dad, asking him, right? I do from later in his life, but he unfortunately had Alzheimer's and so on. But from when he was in his prime, I don't really have that. We didn't have smartphones back at that time, right? But try to spend time with your grandparents, take videos with them, ask them for advice, right? No one can help you find your qibla better than the people who have been on this world for so long. And the unfortunate, sad reality is that they are getting closer to the end. You want to maximize every moment you have with them. So if your grandparents are still living and you get to spend time with them, really enjoy that time with them, and that is a path to Jannah. 2 summers that changed my life. Okay, so when I was in 10th grade, I mentioned that I went to summer camp. In 10th grade, I got to do a service project. So I went to South Dakota to an Indian reservation. It looked sort of like this in the top one. It was in South Dakota, and we helped this group of Native Americans in this tiny little town called Little Eagle revamp their powwow grounds. We rebuilt it, we painted it, and so on. And it was a very powerful experience because beyond just like the service work, you got a sense of what this country and the way we treated Native Americans, how much that had impacted their society, and it was really eye-opening. The mayor of the town, who was our host, was also sadly an alcoholic, and he went on this big like binge drinking and became, and it was just really, there were sad things, but it was real world stuff that we interacted. And when I wrote my college essay that ultimately alhamdulillah I got into Harvard with, I wrote about that experience. I wrote about my experience at that Indian reservation and so on. I can't get my hands on that college essay. In retrospect, I probably would tell someone to write about something different, because the trip essay, the where you go overseas and you help some unfortunate people, isn't really the best essay. I don't think I did it quite like that, but still, in any case, whether it helped me with the college essay or not, it definitely helped me get in touch with who I was as a person. And then in the summer of 2000, right, I had been at Harvard, and my dean, I became Muslim when I was 15, and I didn't know very much about the dean. And so my dean was a little bit shaky during my first couple of years at Harvard. I wasn't practicing to the same extent. And then, alhamdulillah, I got a chance to do study abroad in Egypt, and I went over there and I met just an incredible group of brothers at the American University of Cairo and Al-Azhar, and it changed my life. And really, I point to 2000 as the time I really had sort of a second conversion to Islam, and I made the niyyah, inshallah, never to miss another salah, and just to really devote my life for the sake of the deen, right? And that summer, I spent 40 days on Jamaat, again with the Tablighi Jamaat. And we were in New England. I was in Maine, actually, and I spent all my summers in Maine. I showed you some pictures earlier, but I'm in the sort of coastal part of Maine, for better or worse, the more affluent part of Maine. I was in, cities like Lewiston with the Somali community and other immigrant communities, and sleeping on masjid floors and just experiencing, a very, very different type of America. And that became sort of a superpower for me, that I had this sort of ability to be a cultural chameleon, that like wherever I was, I was equally comfortable in like a New York City boardroom as I was in, the masjid floor, in a rural masjid, or in India, or something like that. Those are unusual qualities, right? And those things, ultimately helped shape who I was as a person, and certainly helped give me the value set that's led me to be speaking with you today. Deepening your connection with the Quran, doing a daily wird after Fajr, setting some sort of target for memorization, but make sure not to just focus on memorization, focus on the meaning, right? The tafsir, like ideally you have a teacher, right? Someone who actually inspires you. Ideally it's an in-person teacher, but it could be overseas as well, right? But someone who actually makes you fall in love with the Quran. One of the best things that you can do. Okay, we're getting towards the end. Habits and routines to maximize summer productivity. All right, so I think there are 3 indispensable tools, right? One is a journal, right? So right in front of me, I have a journal. It looks just like the one there. I have about 25 of them over there. I go through a journal roughly once a month. That's my like everything book. That's where I take all my notes. That's where everything that I'm thinking, where I do all my writing, and so on. Having a journal to put your ideas in. Like I said, you want to become a creator, right? You want to start thinking, and the best way to think is to write, to doodle, to do things. And there's something magical about the pen and paper that we've just sort of lost in this modern age. So journal, very, very important. A Fitbit or some sort of thing like that. Peter Drucker, the famous management person, said, what gets measured gets managed, right? So there are certain goals that you can set, right? If you're doing exercise goals like the steps, right? If you want to do 10,000 steps a day, right? If you just have it as a vague goal, right? It's not necessarily going to happen. But if you actually are measuring it and can look at it and see when you haven't exceeded it, then it helps you plan your life. Plus, it also tracks your sleep, right? And sleep is the single biggest, performance enhancing drug, right? So sleep is incredibly important, and these tools will track your sleep and will also show you how it is. It looks like with all these things, is Fitbit like an Israeli company or something? Like, I don't know. I'm getting a little worried by how many of these things. Uh, okay. I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing anything that would have led to all those emojis, but I hope that I'm not recommending a product. There are other products if this one somehow has an issue. The other thing is just airplane mode, right? Our phones are incredible products, right? But they're the most distracting things that we have in our lives. And sometimes we just need to unplug and the best way to do it, people don't really turn off their phones anymore, right? That's sort of like an ancient philosophy or whatever. Just put it on airplane mode. Set like putting your scheduled times where your phone is in airplane mode where you literally can't touch it. I do that, and then I pick up my phone to do something, and then like, oh, it's in airplane mode. And like you need to put restrictions on yourself, or else like you're just not going to be able to do it. Other ideas, avoiding the algorithms, right? So this generation that our young people are living in is the algorithm generation. There are brilliant, diabolical Silicon Valley engineers who know us and know our inner psyche better than we know it ourselves, right? And these TikTok and YouTube shorts rabbit holes, I can't tell you, when I talk to students and I ask them, where do you spend your time? Like, let's do a time audit here, right? They're spending between 3 to 6 hours a day on watching short form, like little dopamine hits, dopamine snack videos, right? I find it happens to me sometimes, right? My daughter makes fun of me because I watch Facebook TikToks, right? Because I'm on Facebook, like hopefully doing something a little more useful, and then they have those short form videos, and you're like, oh, that's funny. Ooh, oh, look at that. Oh, a cat, right? Like it's just, it just sucks you in, right? So a little bit of junk food is okay, but you have to eat your digital fiber. If you're going to be using these, make sure to use them for something good. There are so many great documentaries out there. There are amazing podcasts. There are great YouTubers. Oops, sorry. Ali Abdal is one of my favorite YouTubers. I've gotten so much value from him. Like, so I'm not one of these absolutists who say, you can't have a phone, or there's no screen time, or this or that. If some parents are like that, that's your prerogative. There's a happy medium here, right? But make sure that when you're consuming digital products, that you're consuming that digital fiber, right? That you're doing things that are good for you, that you're a little bit proud of, that you don't mind other people finding out about, those sorts of things, right? This language, right? Skibbity phantom tax and the way people talk, like it's sort of that's a symptom of brain rot. And I'm sure the parents have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm sure the kids do, and they're cringing right now that I just said skibbity phantom tax. The barakah of the early morning. So, mashallah, Rasulullah SAW made dua specifically for one part of the day, and it is the early part of the day. And there's something magical about summer mornings, right? And most people in the summer, right, they stay up till late in the night, and then they sleep until late in the afternoon, right? And I know there are some night owls, and there's different types of things, but the fact of the matter is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for this particular time of the day. And if you can try to arrange your schedule in the prophetic manner where you sleep shortly after Isha, right? And then you you wake up at Fajr time, and then you start your day from that early part of the day. There is enormous barakah. You can get more done between like 6 to 9 in the morning than you can between 9 to 6 in the rest of the day, right? So try to take advantage of that. The other things like modern, a lot of sort of Western Silicon Valley types talk about the cold plunge, where you sort of sit in an ice bath type thing. I finally within this last week, I finally broke and decided to try it, and I filled my bathtub with cold water. I haven't put ice in there, but it's still very cold. SubhanAllah, like it's been amazing. Like I have had such good mornings since I started doing that. So I mean, I'm not saying this is not a sunnah or anything. But something about getting your body like just coming wide awake and doing something really hard when you first wake up, there's something great about that. Try not to look at your phone for the first 2 hours of the day if you can. Right? 5 is another thing that I was recommended. Essentially, you do 5 push-ups, 5 squats, 5 lunges, and then a 30-second plank. Just, again, get your body moving, drink some water, right? Have a good routine in the morning. And I probably should have put it before that, but tahajjud and dua, right? Whether we're making that at Fajr time or tahajjud time, right? Starting your day with dua, having like a daily wird of Quran and other things. And then just also find that genius hour. For me, it is the early mornings, alhamdulillah, right? But find that time when your mind is most alive and protect that with your life. And don't have that be a time when your phone's distracting, your friends are distracting, or your family's distracting you. Find that to be the time when you can throw yourself into something that you're deeply passionate about. And that's a good segue, the best activity of all and how we can help, right? So the single best thing, in my opinion, that you can do with your summer and that really moves the needle when it comes to college admissions is a quote unquote passion project, right? I call it a Saturday morning project. Saturday morning project is a project that you're working on that is so exciting that you're willing to wake up early on a Saturday morning, right? And you just sit down and get going on it. So some people might I had a student who started a charity, right? She started just tutoring one student in Kashmir during the pandemic, and then more students wanted to come, so she started tutoring a bunch of them. Then she needed to hire more tutors, and then subhanallah, by now she created something called the Hikmah Foundation. You can Google it if you'd like. She has 25 different student tutors working for her. They tutor online in Kashmir, but they also work with the refugee population in Pennsylvania. So alhamdulillah, this project which she started, which wasn't coming from a place of will this look good for college, ended up looking good for college. Right? It ended up being something that helped her get into UPenn, alhamdulillah. So set a goal that you're 99% certain you won't be able to achieve this summer, then go all out and try to achieve it as if your life depended on it, and you'll either get there, you'll achieve this insane goal, or you'll get much closer than you were at the beginning of the summer, and you'll experience failure, which is one of the best gifts that you can possibly get, to try something and have it not work out, right? Because it won't work out the first time, right? But it will teach you how to be resilient and how to problem solve and so on. So I wanted to give you a quick example of a passion project that I actually have right now. So my son and I, sorry, I meant to put this as the next slide. We decided to we both love jerky. We both love beef jerky, but it's hard to find halal beef jerky, right? So we decided that, and he is also, the other part of him is he loves cooking, right? A lot of his YouTube stuff is watching like Nick Giovanni and so on. He makes pasta from scratch. He does all this stuff, which is a little unusual for a 12-year-old, right? So we decided, why don't we start a halal jerky business, right? So not only can we feed our own stomachs, but we can also learn about entrepreneurship and starting a business and so on. So actually, I know we're on Zoom, but today we are making a batch, and I'm just going to walk over because it's right behind me to the dehydrator and see how it's doing. So, and then I'm going to just sort of taste the first one. So just give me 1 second. Okay. So here we have, I don't know if you can see this on the camera. Actually, let me stop sharing for a little bit. So here we have the first round of jerky. So it looks pretty good. Let's see. I think this is the sweet chili one. Let's see. Bismillah. Not bad. Definitely needs a little more time in the dehydrator. So let me just throw this back in. But this is a great example, hopefully you can hear me, of a Saturday morning project. It's delicious, it's fun, helps us bond. Alhamdulillah. All right. Sorry about that. I haven't eaten dinner either, so I thought that would be a little easy way to eat while I'm teaching. Alhamdulillah. But in any case, you can see, like, you can imagine how fun that is for me to do with my son. And hopefully it's fun for him to do with me as well, right? And it's just when you find something like that. Like another thing, I haven't started doing it, I want to do with my daughter is a little free library. Those little libraries that you put in the front of your house, and you can put books in there. And I have so many books, as you can see. And I could probably give some of those books away and still have a lot of books. So and it's a great way to share with the community. And you can design it like a masjid, design it like when you figure out who you are and what you really want to do, you can just do these fun projects that don't feel like work, right? And that you throw yourself into, but then they end up becoming these incredible things, these things that you're proud about, these things that you light up when you talk about, and ultimately they really do help with college and so on. So I think I skipped one slide. One of the things I work with the students who do my Find Your Qibla program, which I'm about to talk about, is this. This is a Japanese word, ikigai. It's your reason for being. So I call it a Japanese Venn diagram on steroids, right? And it's an amazing tool to discover like what you should really be doing with your life as a whole, but even with your summer as well. So it's a combination of what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. Right? So when you can find that thing right in the center of that diagram called the ikigai, that is the overlap of what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs, right? Then you have really, really discovered something. Right. And for many years, alhamdulillah, I was a teacher. I taught at an Islamic school. I think I had everything except what you can be paid for. Of course, I got paid, but the payment at an Islamic school for any teachers, to be honest, is not great. And when I would go to Harvard reunions, as I did last weekend, and I'd see my friends who flew in their private planes, and it was hard not to judge myself a little bit, right? Just because I felt like I could do something more. And now since I started Five Before College and I'm an entrepreneur and I have my own company and I'm sort of in charge of my own financial future, and I see the future as bright and I can add a lot of value to the world, and so on. I'm just so excited. I finally merged the ikigai. I finally found that thing I was looking for all this time. So if there are adults here, this might resonate with you. I think there are a lot of adults out there who are not very happy with their jobs, and they haven't really discovered that they're too much on one side. Maybe they're getting paid well, but they're doing something they don't love, or they don't think the world needs, or they don't care about, right? So helping students discover this and have these kinds of conversations when they're still in high school, when their whole life is ahead of them, right? When I found Islam as a 15-year-old, right, that was sort of the equivalent of that. That was like the super ikigai. That gave me my life's purpose, right? I've devoted my whole life to helping other 15-year-olds find Islam and find their purpose, right? It had a tremendous impact. So there's something magical about this high school age where, with the right guidance, students can really come alive and so on. We're almost done. I know we're probably a little over on time. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about the program that I've mentioned if you're on my email list, called Find Your Qibla. This has sort of become the flagship offering of my company. We don't have enrollments open all the time. but we are in an enrollment cycle right now. I'm trying to build a cohort of 15. We're about halfway there, and I also have my call log fully booked for the next week or so. There may be some more slots, but alhamdulillah, there's been a lot of interest in this program, and if there are people on this call who might be interested, there's going to be a link later where you can fill out an application and try to get a slot of your own. The big idea of Find Your Qibla is you need to come up with a vision for your hayat dunya, right? You need to like I said with the lion tracking stuff, you need that compass, right? And that way to read the signs and read the different things that come up in your life. So that you're always sort of making the decisions that are ultimately getting to your destination, right? And the ultimate destination is obviously the pleasure of Allah and its success in the akhirah, right? And having that akhirah orientation where it's not just on the tongue, but it's in the heart, that true success is in pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the biggest goal. If I can help people, get even a taste of iman and a taste of yaqeen and the promises of Allah, that's more valuable than anything else I could do. But having that vision of what you're trying to do, right? And then critically, putting in place well, actually, I guess it's on the next slide. Or no, sorry, this is still on the same concept, right? So, a lot of people say that you need a map, right? They say, give me the roadmap to get my child into college. Give me the paint by numbers, technique to get my child into college. The reality is you don't need a map, right? You need a compass, right? You need a general direction. You need something, you need a moral core that's going to lead you to make decisions that resonate with you, that make you happy, that align with your values, right? And that light you up and make you excited, get you into that flow state. If you do those things, you will look great for college. You will look amazing for college, right? But it's not always possible to plan way down the line, even 5 years down the line, right? It's like driving a car at night. You put the GPS coordinates, you know where you're trying to get. Right? I'm trying to ultimately be a neurosurgeon. I'm trying to ultimately be, a digital marketer. I'm trying to ultimately be, whatever you have. Then it's like driving a car at night, right? You can never see further than your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way, right? You just need to have that compass when you get lost, when you're in the forest, you can't find your way, take out that compass, check your qibla, and then go on from there. Right? So Find Your Qibla is trying to solve these things, right? It's trying to help us find this, right? It's trying to give us that direction. And obviously our ultimate Qibla has to be this, but we're asking, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life, right? We are only in this, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةَ الْمَوْتِ. Every single soul is going to taste of death, right? تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن أملا. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create us? Why did he create life? Why did he create death? To test us, to see which of us is best in deeds, right? And so this is something we can do in the summer and so on. But specifically, right? Specifically, how do we put this all together? How do we say, okay, it's great. I understand the qibla is very important, but what does that have to do with college? Right? What I really help students do, and the tangible outcome, and the thing that I am trying to get is to put in place that passion project, to put in place that Saturday morning project, so you can have your halal jerky boys or your Hikmah Foundation or whatever thing that really resonates with who you are and so on. Right? It's to try to help you do the brainstorming, the iterating on your different ideas, to help you clarify your goals and your values, to figure out your strengths and so on, but then to actually come up with a project and actually launch it. As someone who's in the middle of a big, giant passion project of my own, getting a company off the ground from scratch, right? I've learned a lot about what goes into entrepreneurship. And every sort of single project is entrepreneurship, right? Like you are creating something that doesn't exist, right? That's what a passion project is. You're not joining a club. You're not doing something else. You are taking something that currently doesn't exist in the world and you're creating it. And it's a hard thing to do. And it's not an easy thing to do without coaching. And it's not something that's going to happen just by having empty thoughts. Yeah, I'll start that, right? You need guidance to do something like that. And that's what I try to provide with Find Your Qibla. And obviously, the goal of this is to give you joy and it's to find purpose. But it just so happens that when you do something that you're so excited about, you jump off the page. You become a magnetic Muslim. You become that Muslim that colleges are chasing after because you look so different. That girl who made 30 grand a month, right? They have never seen someone quite like her apply to college before, right? And they're willing to take a gamble on her, even though she doesn't have the academic stats and things like that. They're like, okay, if she was able to do this, right? Then she might do that. I would add, on the other hand, not to toot my own horn, that I was able to help her figure out how to structure that story, how to write it in my own rec letter, and then how to help her with her essays and things, create that sort of story. So the way it works is there's a cohort, inshallah, of 15 extraordinary Muslim teenagers. Like I said, we're about half full already. It's an 8-week program. It starts after Eid al-Adha, so somewhere around the 20th of June. There are it doesn't say here, subhanAllah. There are recorded modules. So every week new recordings will drop. These are, I've taught the class before and I used to teach live, but they were pretty much just me talking to a group. And I realized that the teaching stuff is better to do where students can consume it on their own time. Sometimes people are traveling in the summer, they're busy, they can do that on their own. And so the live workshop that we'll have will be much more interactive, right? That's where you will have watched the videos. You will have, done some of the exercises and other things. You'll come ready to talk, and we'll get to know the other cohort. And then there are weekly one-on-one meetings. That's really the difference between this and other programs that we do. You're meeting directly with me. That's my goal. And the deliverable is this Saturday morning project that's aligned with your Qibla, right? And that's the guarantee. I didn't put this in as a slide. I meant to, but our guarantee is that if you join this program and if you actually do the work, you watch the modules, you do the assignments, you come to the one-on-one meetings, we guarantee that you will have launched a Saturday morning project by the end of the 8 weeks, or else I will keep working with you for free, inshallah. So that is pretty much it. This is the link that you can click to book the call. Let me put this here. And here's the QR code. So that takes you to a short application. I do that just because, like I said, the interest is really high, and also it helps me for that conversation, to make it really productive. The conversation alone, the way it's structured is usually the families come together, the parents and the child at first. I give them some basic overview, answer any questions they might have. But the heart of this whole call is a one-on-one conversation between me and the student. And because ultimately, that's where the connection has to be made. And sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes I have that conversation and I doubt that. I feel like maybe the student's not quite there yet. Maybe they're not able to be as introspective. Maybe, I'm very good at breaking through with teenagers, but sometimes it's not a match, right? But also I'm getting a sense, this is the first coaching call, really. I'm getting a sense of where their problems are, what are the sticking points that they're facing in life, and trying to help them solve it. Honestly, it's worth an hour-long consultation like that costs about $250. This is a free consultation that you get. So even if you didn't do the program, please don't sign up for that reason. I only want people who are genuinely interested. But it is a very, very valuable thing that we do. Inshallah, I pretty much come to the end of this. I guess go to this last slide. The main thing I wanted to see before we get to the Q&A is in the chat, what stood out from you? Like, what are the one or two things that I said today that you are going to remember, that you wrote down, that you'll tell someone else in your family about? I always love to hear what those things are, and it's really helpful for other people. So if you could just go to the chat one last time and put those in here. Being pointy, okay? Let's keep them coming. I want to hear your insights, your takeaways. What is it during this whole talk? The passion project, liking projects, mashallah. What else? Saturday morning project. Any other concepts? The SMART goals. Alhamdulillah. It doesn't have to be complicated. I love that. Being pointy, the types of summers, the Saturday projects, real life experiences. A students work for C students. That's great. Job in the summer, the Japanese, the Ikigai, finding your compass, the 5-5-5-30. Nice, nice. I've started doing it too. Alhamdulillah. Exciting. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Why chase after college when they can be chasing you? Make the Nia, the beef jerky project. Alhamdulillah. Inshallah, that's the next business. We'll have a webinar about it. Learning the new project. A girl with 3.0 GPA got into a prestigious university. Yep, standing out. Real life experience. Finding your qibla, mashallah. Importance of internships. That you bring it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. MashaAllah. Thank you for saying that. Reading biographies, having fun, loving yourself and growing in what you're passionate about. Reading a lot. The Ikigai, getting a job is a good thing. Failure is just learning. Oh, excellent. I didn't even say it so nicely. Can you send a recording, please? Yes, inshallah. Biographies, nice. TED Talks. Oh, there's a great list. I'm gonna put my phone number. There's not that big a group here. I'm going to put my phone number in the chat, 617-610-7084. If you don't have me, the best way to be in touch with me is by WhatsApp. Send me a message. I can, send you a message back. If you have questions, I can follow up and so on. I meant to put that on one of the slides, but I forgot. Connecting with the elderly. Nice. And yeah, it goes beyond grandparents, I should have said. Yep, planning. Nice. Best jump start for the summer. Don't need to be a jack of all trades. Excel at one thing. Don't forget sports for adults before teens. Alhamdulillah. Excellent. I love it. Okay, I'm going to go over to the Q&A. I see 44 things there. If you guys are didn't ask a question, or it's really late, or you need your beef jerky, feel free to go, but I'm going to go in and stay here until ask all the questions, or until I'm going to miss Salah, which alhamdulillah, I have plenty of time. All right, so let's see. Going from the top, dua from Bay Area. Suggested summer activities for middle school students. I think, like I said, reading is for all ages is a really great thing. Everything that I said here can be applied, just sort of the junior version at the middle school level. Middle school, my son's 12, right? That beef jerky project is something we're doing. They might need a little bit more scaffolding and a little bit more support, but definitely, those are things they can do. Will this recording be posted online? Yep, I upload them to YouTube, and so they are public YouTube videos, but also I will send you the direct link, inshallah, as soon as we get it up online. What if the hobby is reading? That's an amazing hobby. Maybe have another hobby as well. That's the thing. People say they don't have hobbies, but if you become a good lion tracker, right, you can figure out either that you already have hobbies or that you can figure out what those hobbies are. Yep. How are kids supposed to be kids? 100%. I love that, right? And hopefully my message today didn't add that stress. Like, yes, if you're doing that accomplished summer, which is not a bad thing to do, and maybe especially after junior year, it might make sense to really push it at that point, right? But kids do need to be kids. You do need to have fun, right? It's not just all work, work, work. And the beautiful thing is that doesn't hurt you. It actually helps you in the long run. How can you help your child determine what they need to do during the summer? For a 13-year-old boy, the main interest is soccer and PS5. How to explore other interests inside of them. All right. Hopefully, I know that question came in early. Hopefully some ideas were shared later. But that's really what I try to do with Find Your Qibla. A lot of times, what I find is when they talk to a third party, I'm able to get information from them that they'd never tell their parents. Almost every time I sort of give a little recap of what we talked about, the parents are like, "Really? They never told me that. I never knew they were thinking that. Wow, subhanAllah." And usually I'm able to show the parents actually their kids are a lot more put together than they thought. That there's a lot of stuff going on in their heads, but it's hard for kids to express that all the time to their parents. But the main thing is kids have interests. Again, it's just a question of figuring out what those are. And when it comes to electronics and so on, it's I don't have the perfect solution there, right? I do think the really combative screen time battles and very sort of strict things, turning the Wi-Fi off, all those things, they can be counterproductive. It creates an us versus them atmosphere. Sometimes it's necessary if the problem's gotten to that level, but you can definitely alienate kids that way. Let's see. What are the best ways as a near eighth grader you can get over laziness? And after that, how do you figure out what your path is for the future? Right? I think flip those two things around. If you figure out what your path is for the future, that will help you get over the laziness. You need to have a destination in mind in order to put the work in to get there. Right? I think a lot of people, when they feel lazy, it's because they don't really feel like they have a purpose. They're not working towards something. That's why you want to set that stretch goal. Set that goal, right? People overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year, right? We're very impatient. We try something, it doesn't work, and then we give up, right? But if you just set a stretch goal, right, of a passion project or something like that, and then you keep on working at it, then inshallah you will be able to get there, and that gets you out of your laziness, right? I'm willing to do the ice bath in the morning in the 5:30 because I want to get down here and figure out how I can help Muslim kids, right? This is fun for me, right? I enjoy this. This is not work, right? This is like what I'm meant to do. I want everyone to find something like that, right? And you can. And you just need to, and if you can find it at a young age, imagine how much of a difference that can make for your life going forward. When you're referring to ninth grade summer, do you mean the summer between 8th and 9th or 9th and 10th? I was probably talking about the summer after ninth grade, right? Yeah, that's sort of what I mean. All of them are important. Like I said, 8th grade, that's why I do 5 before college. 8th grade is a very important grade. I compare it to like the PSAT, right? Like the PSAT doesn't actually count for colleges, but it still gives you a pretty good indication of what's coming up. In Islamic terms, it's like before you're baligh, right? Even with children, they might not have to pray until they hit puberty, but we usually encourage them to pray, to start praying, so that when they do, then they're already in the practice of it, right? So that's what 8th grade is like, and so on. So having a great summer after 8th grade is important too, right? I would say, definitely make sure it's fun as well. In regards to being pointy rather than well-rounded, what if there are different things you're interested in? Is it okay to take courses on the different things you're interested in? 1,000%. Like, if you're interested in something, then go for it, right? And there are a lot of, we're living in an incredible time where you have access to amazing resources, amazing teachers, people who have devoted their lives to things, and you can actually learn real skills from them. It's You don't necessarily have to have just one point, right? In fact, the best case scenario for pointiness is when you have two interests that you've gone really deep in that seemingly don't have anything to do with each other, right? But then you figure out a way to manage them. So one example I often give one of my students, her two passions were Latin and Greek, so ancient languages, ancient history, and computer science. Right? Those were her two pointy things. So she wrote a college essay about something like what Julius Caesar could teach us about algorithms, or it was something along those lines. And she was looking at like ancient philosophy and stuff she'd learned from her study of that time period and applying it to the modern age. right? And applying it to specifically computers and infrastructure and so on. That's a really interesting college essay, right? And when you have those interests in those different things, you can really go far. The key is, like, if you think you're interested in something weird, Alhamdulillah, say Alhamdulillah, do such a shukr, right? The weirder your interest, the more unusual, the more unique, the better. It's so hard to stand out when you look like everyone else, right? So even if you do want to go to medical school or something that a lot of other people do, right? Still figure out your why, figure out what type of thing. Like, I had a student who she wants to go to medical school, but she's absolutely passionate about women's health, right? She said that something like she has a big family and something like 20 women in her family have given birth since she was born, right? And so she's been around childbirth and all her life. And also she's notices that what a taboo it is within Muslim institutions to talk about women's issues and menstruation and so on. And so she at the school, there was nothing in the women's bathroom, like that had those sanitary dispensers and so on. So she created a project where she went and she raised money and installed this thing and really helped the girls. And then in addition to that, did lots of teaching about women's health issues, critically important, filling a gap that they had. And so then as she's writing about that, she's not just saying I want to be a doctor, she's saying I want to be an OBGYN, and this is what I've done in high school to show what I can do about it. Mashallah, we still have 100 people, so I guess these are okay. What do I do if I have multiple specialized interests in completely different fields? Like I just said, I hope you heard that's an amazing ni'mah to have, right? Ultimately, try to figure out some ways that you can merge those interests, right? This is a great use of ChatGPT, to be honest. Say, hey, I'm interested in this, this thing, and then I'm also interested in this. I don't see any connection behind them. Can you suggest 5 possible ways that they are connected, and maybe a project that I could do where I explore both of them? You'll be amazed at what it comes up with, right? Being able to prompt these AIs and so on, can help us like plant seeds. They're not going to do the work for us. You need to know how to write the prompt, but using them as a tool to help you get thinking, incredibly valuable. 8th grade to work on college planning, but what if your child is an incoming senior? How can she become the pointy student? Right. So, at this point, you have to look back retrospectively at what she did, right? There's a whole industry, college counselors, who work with people in 11th and 12th grade, right? And they do a good job, right? The advertisements you see, investing in professional advice for college is usually a worthwhile investment because, the cost of college is such that if you pay $5,000, $10,000 for a college counselor and you end up saving $20,000 a year, $40,000 a year, right? It's a no-brainer, right? It's a good investment, and those people can help you, right? And the difference with what I'm trying to do is I don't want to just come in and make cosmetic changes to look back at your profile and figure out how to fix it up. I can do that. In fact, I'm pretty good at that. Like I have worked with students who I just meet in the 12th grade, and we do like a deep dive on who they are, what they've been up to, and figure out a narrative and so on. And it does get the job done. Inshallah, they still can get into the colleges, but they haven't necessarily had that benefit of working for 5 years on really establishing who they are and what they're trying to do, right? And so with the right tricks and the sort of marketing tips and brand management, you can help. But I wouldn't doubt that student who's in 12th grade, I'm sure there is a lot of substance there. And also you still have the summer, right? You still have the summer to really try to excel. My son wants to do wrestling and MMA. How can he use this to support his senior year and make good use of his time? And please Allah. MashaAllah. Yesterday I was in Boston, and there was a brother who was a convert, and he was asked his story. So he became Muslim because of Khabib. Khabib, I can't pronounce his last name, the MMA fighter, right? And he said that he used to see him, and after his fights, he would like make sujud, or he would say Alhamdulillah, and that planted the seed. And this guy started investigating Islam as a result. And so those are great things, wrestling and MMA, right? Like, and those are both physical things. So maybe there could be one something more on like the intellectual side, or like mind, body, spirit, right? You really want something that's mentally challenging, that they can sink their teeth into, that's physically like these things, and then also spiritually, and so on. So if you can find some other interest, and I'm sure they exist. Think about what videos they watch, when other than the like ones that are recommended to them, and so on. My 13-year-old loves makeup. How can that love develop into good learning? I have a good story about that. And actually it connects with something someone said earlier. There was a student that came to one of my friends who's also a college counselor, and she was a rising senior, right? So didn't have much time, and she said, I haven't done anything in college. What am I supposed to do? So he started interviewing her, and it turned out she was obsessed with makeup, right? She could like spend a month's salary at Sephora, and knew everything about makeup, watched videos all day. And the other thing that she did was she had a really good relationship with her grandparents, who were at a retirement home. And so they came up with a sort of Saturday morning project, passion project, where she would go every Saturday um, uh, to the nursing home and do the makeup for the elderly people there. Probably, most likely the women, Allahu Alam. And it was an amazing thing, because it helped them make them feel young again, and they loved it, and she was so happy, and so on. So this is a great way to use something like makeup as a passion project. Just connect it to one of your values. Whatever thing you really care about, figure out how to connect it to your values. Yes, the summer reading list. Let me put that on where's my pen? I will try, yeah, I'll try to remember to include the summer reading list link in tomorrow's email. They are in the path to college. Also, if we get that Facebook group going, that's where I'd love to place something like that. How to get all your books, Amazon, or would you like to share PDFs? You can definitely find PDFs. The internet is a crazy place. I'd rather not share like pirated PDFs, just as a business. I don't think that's the best thing to do. I buy all these books on eBay. Unless it's a brand new book, you can usually find the book for between like $3 to $5 on eBay. It takes a little while. It takes 10 to 15 days to get there, but unless you're in a rush, that's what I would recommend. Pretty much anytime someone gives me a book recommendation, my life hack is I go and open eBay and order it on the spot. And as a result, I do have some books that I haven't I've just sort of pecked away at. I haven't read the whole thing. But mashallah, I love having physical books with me. Type of TED Talks do you recommend? Someone else asked that. Let me add that to the email. There's a really good list that someone called the College Essay Guy, who's another fantastic college person, recommended, with a lot of things. One of my favorites is Sir Ken Robinson. It's about education and how schools kill creativity. We were just talking about it on the WhatsApp group, and I've always loved that one. There are so many, mashallah. We don't allow for social media for our kids. I'm hearing colleges asking what student handles are. Is it necessary? No, definitely not. You do not need to do social media. If they do social media, and I didn't mention this, they should be very careful about what they post. They should imagine their parent, their principal, their college admissions officer seeing whatever they posted, and hopefully that can get them to be careful about what they post. There are benefits to having an online footprint if it's a useful, purposeful online footprint. Like now, when you used to Google my name, there were only a handful of hits. Now, if you Google my name, there's tons of stuff out there, because I put a lot of stuff out there, and that helps you build credibility and so on. At the same time, there are so many dangers of social media. One piece of social media that I recommend older students get is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the only social media I have that I feel like I learn from every single day, and it also from a perspective of building your career and so on. It's a good thing to do. You learn a lot if you follow the right people, and also, eventually people start to notice you, and you get incoming traffic, and it's just sort of a part of becoming an adult. Obviously, an eighth grader probably does not need to be on LinkedIn. Um, let's see. What are some pretty good colleges to go to in order to make you stand out? I think again we have to flip this question around. What are some things you have to do to stand out to go to some pretty good colleges, right? I mean, mashallah, there's so many great colleges. Obviously, people always talk about the big name schools, the famous ones, but there's so many other ones that are out there. There's a great book called or I think it's a website, Colleges That Change Lives. I'm a big fan of smaller colleges for Muslim students, especially if they've gone to a smaller school. I think if you go to a big campus with 20,000 kids, it can really swallow you up and so on. So there's some sort of smaller liberal arts colleges that I think really have a big impact on kids and so on. But every kid is different, and so that's hard to, without the context, it's hard to know. Get over laziness. How do you figure out? Okay, we already answered that one earlier. Please give us experiences that people who don't have means can participate in. That's a great question. I think you definitely don't have to have a lot of means like that makeup example I just gave. I mean, yeah, she had to probably buy some of the makeup, but it wasn't a huge outlay of expense to do a good deed a day and then write a blog about it on a free platform like Substack or something like that. That wouldn't cost any money. Like there are lots of things you can do, and in fact, like not having a lot of resources can help you be more creative about how to go about solving your problems, right? It might force you to, be a little entrepreneurial, figure out how to get people to invest in you, right? How to get people to, sell a vision to people that they're willing to invest in and so on. So there can be advantages to everything. And similarly, having too much money can be quite a corrupting influence. I saw it with a lot of my classmates at Harvard. The smartest, wealthy families really did not spoil their kids, did not give them, too much stuff. They really, they kept them on a tighter leash, because that can be a real fitna when kids have access to lots of resources. I'm in 10th grade and I'm going to college next year. Wow. I'm in a program called Running Start, which allows high school students to earn their associate's degree while in high school. What would you suggest a 10th grader do if they're not sure what they want to do in the summer career-wise? So I don't know the exact context. Like with our school, the kids do go to college, quote unquote, next year because they're going to dual enrollment classes on community college campuses and so on. And some of them do get associate's degrees, but ultimately they go off and get their bachelor's after 12th grade. I think in terms of careers, like again, it comes to like, reading the tea leaves and so on. Like I do various what do you call it, surveys and other things with the students and Find Your Qibla, like personality type things, Strength Finder, the Holland codes, which is for sort of figuring out which types of employment make sense for you. Think about like the ideal job for yourself. Like what would you love to be doing? Like design the perfect job for yourself, right? And get ChatGPT to help you, ask you questions if you can't think of how to do that. Think of someone who has a job that if you had that job, you would be psyched to do it. And then write them an email and try to have an interview with them and ask them how they got to where they are, or what were they thinking at their age, like how did you make the decisions that got you here, right? Like there are a lot of things you can do to try to figure it out. What do you mean by airplane mode? That's the thing you're supposed to do when you're on the plane and you turn your phone off so it doesn't interfere with things, but essentially it turns your smartphone into a dumb phone because it can't access the internet, and things like that. Creative writing, definitely. Creative writing is incredibly useful. Like the other day, my daughter had to write a story, and she had watched a show about vampires. And when I used to see her watching it, I didn't think it was like the most useful use of her time, but alhamdulillah, she was very happy. But then when she wrote this story, I realized, subhanAllah, she has learned so much about characterization, pacing, storytelling. Those are incredibly useful things when you're in the corporate world and you're able to tell a good story and you're able to give a speech and you're able to flesh out characters, understand emotion, understand psychology. Those are incredibly beneficial things. So again, there's nothing that's not useful. If you're into it, it's useful. You'll find a way to make it useful, right? Because you'll get good at it. So if you like the thing, do the thing, right? That's pretty much as simple as it is. Obviously, like the caveat would be like, don't do haram things, don't do things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us not to do, right? Don't say, oh, I love drugs or whatever the case may be. Of course not, right? But at the same time, like whatever your interest is, like just listen to that voice that's telling you. What encouraged you to convert to Islam? Happy you did, alhamdulillah. There's a video on YouTube out there about my path to Islam. Essentially, one of my fellow students in high school introduced me to the deen, and it's a very long story. But alhamdulillah, that was the pathway I came. Most work on the computer now. What's your advice for students to keep them from being distracted? Yeah, I think that's really a big issue, especially during the school year, because so much of the curriculum is online. I mean, there are ways to lock down browsers and there are sort of tech tools that you can use. As much as possible, when they are able to do things with paper and pen, there's a lot of evidence that learning happens better in that kind of setting. But I think using the computer is, it's you do need to learn how to put up guardrails and so on. So yeah, there are specific tools to avoid getting distracted. The main thing is like single tasking, like only working on one thing at a time and so on. Wa alaikum salam. As a senior, if I've just finished writing my college essay, I've just finished writing my college essay. So wondering if you could take a look at it and let me know if there's any room for improvement. I want to make sure it really wows the colleges. Beautiful. Yes, I should have mentioned that when everyone was here. A little later in the summer. Right now, I'm focused on Find Your Qibla and this whole enrollment cycle and getting that launched well. Once we get past that, then I'm going to really try to help the juniors who are in the throes of the process. So if you've already written an essay, alhamdulillah, that's great. We're going to do some, most likely a college essay boot camp. We try to get people essays quickly, and then also have a program where they if they want to really use us long term for all of their essays and strategy and everything that they can do that. This brother Jawahir can reach out to me and we can there are ways to book just single hours with me. I'm trying to move away from that as a model, but definitely for something like this, that's a good thing to do. How to extract potential from kids. Reading is good, but how to get used to reading when they're on the phone and all their homework is on a computer. Yeah, I mean, that's why I think physical books are great. Like as much as I got into Kindles for a long time, but then, going back to physical books, there's just not the same distraction. I don't know if that really answers it, but, extracting potential from kids, I mean, I don't know if I'd put it exactly like that. Think about like your kids are a seed that you've planted and they have enormous potential in them. Like Michelangelo used to say, like that when he was a sculptor, right? And he said that all he was doing was chipping away the marble from, the figure that was already trapped inside the marble. So his job as a sculptor was just to get rid of the negative space and release the thing that was always in there. So that's really the same thing. Like your children are fully formed, great people who have dreams and things. It's just a question of like getting, all the societal noise and stuff that's distracting them, so they can get in touch with that inner voice. Please explain what these silly childish words mean. Are they inappropriate? I need to know. As far as I know, they're not inappropriate, but they are silly. Skibbity Phantom Pop, Phantom Tack, sorry. I say it wrong all the time. My son has explained it to me, but I don't think it's worth going into it in too much depth. We struggle with ideas for passion projects. Yep, I understand that. That's a big part of Find Your Qibla, finding the right idea, right? When you find the right idea, you'll know it's the right idea because it will give you like goosebumps, right? But finding it is challenge. Yeah. Would a podcast or a class for kids at the library work for a passion project? 100%. Podcasts are great. Teaching a class for kids at the library, yep, that can be good. The other thing about passion projects is they have a way of snowballing, right? Like that girl started tutoring just one person in Kashmir, and then eventually, by the 3-4 years later, she had a team of 25, and she was leading a whole NGO. She officially, incorporated and everything, right? So, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Don't try to like launch this giant vision of something and I can't get there, so I'm not going to do anything. Just do whatever you can do and then, see where it goes and see how it develops. See what works, see what doesn't work, keep iterating, that sort of thing. How do you find projects when you're not creative in that way? You have to change thinking. That's a mindset change. You are creative, right? Everyone is creative. I used to think I wasn't creative because I'm very visually not gifted. I'm not graphic design and art and so on is not something that I excel in. Not to say that I couldn't do it. Inshallah, I have to have growth mindset, but I realize I am creative. I'm more creative in my writing. I'm creative in my ideas that I have. I'm creative in so many ways, right? So you are creative. It's just you have to figure out what your creativity is, and you have to stop the negative talk of telling yourself that you're not creative, right? Because that's self-fulfilling when you cut yourself down like that. What does a passion project look like for a high school student? Just a few examples. Okay, hopefully I've given a few examples now. The makeup thing, the beef jerky thing, the NGO that the girl started. People. There are other sorts of small businesses people have started. Podcasts, YouTube channels. But again, like start a YouTube channel, but have a really good focus that aligns with what you're trying to do. Not to be a downer, but asking kids to find their Olivia before applying to college is not really fair to them when we adults haven't found it. I assume that that's a typo. Find their Qibla. Interesting. Interesting thought. Sometimes the kids will lead the way, right? Watching your kid go through this process. I remember talking to a parent and he started crying. He said, I came home and my son was calling the adhan. And then he was like, Papa, why aren't you coming and praying with us? Why aren't you praying with us? Because the father didn't pray, but the kid was going to Islamic school and he started praying, right? And so the kid was the one leading his father in that direction. So it can be very inspirational seeing your kid find purpose, and it can help you reevaluate some of the decisions you've made. So I don't know about fairness, unfairness. I think it doesn't need to be mutually exclusive. You can be on your own. I do, talk to parents as well, not so much about like finding their qibla, but about helping their children. But I do, coach. I do some coaching with adults as well, because I think so many people are struggling with this, especially Muslims who maybe they're in corporate jobs or other things where they just feel that emptiness, right? And mashallah, I'm part of a huge ecosystem of Muslim entrepreneurs trying to do their own thing that aligns with their own qiblas and so on. Does repeating the grade affect the admissions in college? It's a complicated question. If you need to repeat the grade, you should repeat the grade, right? Like it probably will require some explanation, but if the guidance counselor is able to explain it, if the essay sort of might touch upon it, there are lots of very legitimate reasons to do it. And the other thing is don't let that change the student's self-perception and so on. My son received a disappointing GPA of 3.67 in his first trimester. Then for the second trimester, he got a 4.0. For our family, a 4.0 is the expectation. But now my son's lowest score for trimester 3 is 92%. And this might not be enough for the 4.0 GPA. Any recommendations on what to do with him? An example could be like giving a punishment. I I'm sorry if like I don't, every parent is their own, but this style or way of thinking is very much different than the way I think about the situation, right? Helping your son find a passion project that he cares a lot about and that it gets him excited is going to be infinitely more important than the difference between like a 3.8 and a 3.9 or 3.9 and a 4.0, right? Harvard loves, every year they reject a huge number of people with 4 point perfect GPAs, perfect 1600 SAT scores because they don't have anything else, right? And if you grow up in that environment where, it's my way or the highway, 4.0 or bust, right? Like, you know, the kids are, living in a pressure cooker. I know because sometimes they really open up to me and they tell me what it's like. And they want to respect their parents. They love their parents. And I know you love them and it's coming from a place of love, right? But as a college counselor, I'm telling you that the way that question is phrased seems very counterproductive to their college hopes, let alone anything else, right? Like it sounds like they need a break this summer and they need to like relax and find something that they really enjoy so that next year, inshallah, they'll be able to maintain that really strong GPA. But there's a happy balance there. You do need to have set high expectations for your children. And so on, and you can definitely express frustration and disappointment when they don't live up to it, but I wouldn't make them feel too bad. How much does Find Your Qibla program cost? So I like to talk about like the details of the program one-on-one with families after I've met with the child and so on. So inshallah, I'll do that. My son is doing homeschooling and HIFs in his 9th grade. Looks like he will finish his HIFs. Yep, I think that's a definitely, like you were saying before about repeating a grade. HIFs is definitely a reason that you could do it. I think it's okay. Like one of the nice things about what I do now and where I meet families from all over the country is there's so much variety in how people raise their children. We're in the trees, right? And we see just people in our own school and think everyone's like that. I've met homeschoolers who have like the most exotic things. The kids spend the year across 5 or 6 different countries doing all sorts of different things and getting their academics through some online classes and stuff like that. There's private schools, public schools. There's such a variety, and colleges are used to seeing that. So in a lot of ways, doing something like doing HIFs and maybe repeating a year as a result, that's totally okay, right? There's so many ways to do this. A lot of TED Talk questions. Interesting. I'm gonna need to. I'll put some specifics in the future one. Homeschooling kids. We are also homeschoolers. Although my daughter went back to school in 8th grade. I mean, in some ways, one of the reasons I love homeschool is the whole year is sort of like the summer. So a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here, you can do throughout the year of really letting the kids, passions help steer the curriculum and like I said, like Mondays are cooking days for my son and wife, where they spend a good 2 hours, not just studying cooking, but actually cooking and learning culinary skills and so on. Um, so so yeah, and my wife is a great homeschooler as well. So that is she's another person that would be great to talk to. Work on your path to Jannah, inshallah. Great jump start for the summer for adults, even before students. Alhamdulillah. Sorry for my ignorance, but I'm not understanding how we can prove/show what we've done during the summer if they aren't class. Good question. That's a really good question. I should have talked about that. So these things come up largely in your essays, right? So there's one main college essay, which is a 650-word college essay, but then there's also, for the more competitive colleges, there are these supplemental essays. And a lot of them will ask you, how did you give back to your community? What's an example of a project that you're proud of? Excuse me, there are lots of opportunities where you get to talk about these things. Also in the recommendation letters, your guidance counselor does, when you have this big thing that you do, they will find a way to mention it. But good question. Making a movie, even if it's unrelated to my major and has no real valuable meaning. Yeah, again, like I see all this like people throwing themselves under the bus, right? Don't think there's no real valuable meaning. Just work hard to find what that valuable meaning is. Yes, filmmaking, video editing, those are incredibly important skills. My daughter started a YouTube channel during the pandemic, grew it to over 4,000 subscribers in a year or two. Mashallah, she learned so much and she still learns so much. And hopefully once she's done with school this summer, she can help me with some of my own video editing needs because I never learned those skills. And I'm, I can learn, but at this point it's hard. Yes, making movies is great. The first one's probably not going to be very good. That's totally okay. And just keep on trying and keep on going and so on. Is this Q&A for anything related to today's subject? I mean, I'm going with whatever I got. Although it is getting a little closer to Isha time, so I do have to finish pretty soon. Competitive internships, you need to apply early. Competitive internships are really a great sort of preview of what the college application process is like. So there, similarly, you're going to have to show what you did in previous summers and so on, and coursework and other academic interests and so on. They do tend to be a little bit more on the academic side. And they also have essays and recommendation letters and so on. So like I said, it's sort of like a mini applying to college. Is creating a podcast about struggles of being an immigrant with other brothers, friends, a good passion project to raise awareness? 100%. If it definitely can be if it's done well, right? There are a lot of podcast graveyards out there where people just sort of launch something without really thinking it through, and then they make a few episodes, but maybe they structure it in a way that it's too difficult. It requires too much editing, and so they don't stick with it for as long. So try to really nail the idea of what you're trying to do. But once you have that and you have a good crew and you have that, if it's a group podcast and you have good rapport with each other, then by all means, and either way, try it out and see how it goes. I thought the Facebook page was already open. That's a little concerning. Hopefully it worked for people. We are no social media household. No, like I said, it won't be an issue. They can write an essay about not having social media. Like my friends were all on Snapchat and I felt left out, but alhamdulillah, I found myself doing things which proved to be so much greater, right? Like that if that's a clear goal, I can totally see the reasoning behind it. We didn't grow up with social media and we all turned out really well. I think, yeah, there's a happy balance. Definitely some kids who don't have any access to social media feel a little disconnected from their peers. So you want to make sure that they still do have good suhbah and good friendships and ways to communicate with those kids in this modern world. So it might be texting or something like that, but some way that they're not just isolated from everyone else. Writing class for rising eighth graders. There are a lot of great ones. I have some resources on my website with some specific resources. In Boston, there's something called Grub Street, like GRUB. That's a pretty good one. There's another one I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, Google is your friend, and there are definitely some other resources out there. How old are my children? 15-year-old daughter, 12-year-old son. Does having a C completely ruin your chances of prestigious college admissions? I don't know if you heard the story about the girl with like the 2.3 GPA getting into University of Michigan, but clearly it did not in her case. So no. Definitely best to be avoided. You don't want C's and D's. They do jump off the page, and it's sort of something that's going to have to be explained. On the other hand, like prestigious universities don't make the most sense for everyone, and also like there very well could be a very good explanation. So it's about how you tell the story. But a podcast, like to clarify that both would be about an art, Shakespeare plays and acting. Ooh, cool. Sounds really interesting. Like if you like that, do it because you'll like that, and that will make you happy, and it will help you think of the next project and so on. So again, if it's interesting to you and you can put energy behind it, then by all means do it. Don't think about, will this look good? How will this play? Right? Just go with it and see where it goes. Son of 16, doing a full HIF full time and doing dual credits as a homeschooler. How can we prepare him for college with very little time left for him to find his qibla or interests with another year or year and a half to finish his HIF? Fair to mention that he wanted the HIF route and he feels happy doing it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, uh, I don't know what the schedule is like. I know it's very intense to do HIF and so on, and some students do sort of put their lives on hold. I think there are different ways to memorize the Quran. I'm not an expert in this area. Um, you know, uh, but you know, inshallah, the Hufaz who came to my school, we used to have a policy where if you were a Hafiz of Quran, you could attend free of charge. And when they had that policy, and I have no idea why they got rid of it, there were a good number. And those kids by far had the best akhlaq. They were amazing students, amazing people. There's something very special about people who have the Quran within their chest, right? So what he's doing is helping him really find his qibla, right? So try to think about it that way. At the same time, I don't think such single focus is necessarily benefit. Like there need to be other outlets of interests intellectually and other things that they can be involved with. It might even help the hifz go faster, right? When you're because sometimes when you just fixate on one thing, it becomes sort of a burden, and like the best way for me to get work done is sometimes to take a break and go on a walk, and then I come back and I'm able to get it done so much faster. um Chess club for underprivileged youth. Yep, that's great. Mashallah, loves chess and completes in a lot of tournaments. Wants to be a grandmaster. That's amazing. Mashallah, great story there. 100%. That is a great thing to start. And then again, depending on the age, see where it goes. There's a really cool Muslim guy. I forget. Saw him at ISNA. You probably know if you're in the chess world, but he has like a chess academy like this where he's merging Islam and chess and teaching kids about both things. So really cool, amazing passion project. Do you help with finding a way to pay for college? I've done some webinars around uh, uh, paying for college and yeah, I think there are a lot of ways to keep your costs down. There's a big difference between when if your income is low and you're very talented, then usually actually college is quite doable because the good colleges have a lot of financial aid. The tricky part, and then obviously if you're very wealthy, then it's not as big an issue. But the people who are in the middle, those are the ones who really are crunched by paying for college and so on. So there are resources, some Muslim resources and other. Should we apply to your class if my daughter is a rising eighth grader? We certainly can have that conversation. There have been other, I've worked with eighth graders before. This is, young. I think it really depends on what type of person your daughter is and sort of maturity level and ability to sort of do some of the deeper thought. We had quite a few eighth graders in the first cohort of Find Your Qibla, and most of them did well with that, but they were mature eighth graders. It's fiction, murder mysteries, fantasy, contemporary, also useful to read, as in fun books. Yes, definitely, right? Like read, like I said with the vampire story with my daughter, like you know it doesn't, like, on the surface I don't see a lot of value there, or at least I didn't, but mashallah, when I read that story I was like, wow, she has been learning so much that I never even recognized. So there is value in following your passions. When you're really into something, go for it. Struggles of being, yep, I saw that one. Can you go back to the slide that showed the percentage of what admissions officers cared most about? I just closed the slide deck. Oh no. Okay. I actually have it on my computer here. No, but I'm not sharing. Sorry, I know we're just about at the end, I believe. I don't know if this person's even still here, but there it is. Do you have out-of-state recommendations and experience for aeronautical engineering? As for scholarships, what extra effort is needed? Scholarships is a big topic. Definitely there needs to be some training about that. The point is there's tons of money out there that's just free money waiting for people to apply for it. But it does require some extra effort and it does require being methodical about it. In terms of like specific aeronautical engineering, I'd rather do that one in a more private meeting. Like, yes, there are definitely schools out there. It's also something that's, relatively easy when you have a niche subject to do some research of your own. One of the best tools that I use for finding out about colleges is actually an old school thing called the Fisk Guide to Colleges. This has a lot of really great information, and their write-ups are excellent in helping you distinguish between one college and another. Anyway, I do webinars which are more strictly college focused, where I can get into a lot more things. How long is the webinar schedule? It was scheduled for a lot less than it's been, but I wanted to answer all your questions. Rising Junior Passion Project, animated and non-animated short film. I want to blend. Mashallah. Colleges really find that appealing. It's not as big starting a foundation. No, yeah, again, like it's really cool seeing all these questions. Just because it shows like the biggest change that everyone needs to make is that mindset change that you are enough, right? You are enough. Like what you want to do is more than enough for colleges, especially if you do it with your full heart, right? So don't think that the NGO is better than your animation project because, like that was her qibla, right? It's not your qibla, right? You don't need to follow her playbook. Find your own playbook. Yes, you can get a recording. Best age to join Find My Qibla. So it is open 8th through 11th. I mean, there are college students. I think inshallah, there are some college students doing it as well. I think maturity is just the most important thing. So with 8th graders, I think it's just important that they're mature. Most 9th graders have seemed to be do well. The key is you do want to have the full 4 years of high school to keep working on a passion project, keep growing as an applicant. And so I'd say 9th grade is a great time to start, but anytime, the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is today. Scholarships, are there any trustworthy ones? Yep, I have actually put together a whole database of Islamic scholarships that I'm just finalizing with my development team that I can put there. In terms of trustworthy, like I would like if the scholarship exists, has a legitimate site, I'm most likely it's trustworthy. Some are just a lot easier to get than others, and the smaller scholarships, the less money, the more local scholarships, those tend to have many fewer applicants, and there's a good chance you'll get money. Moving to a new country and the challenges, it can be right. It's a pretty commonly done essay, the sort of immigrant challenge of moving to a new country. So it needs to be done with a lot of nuance and with a particular angle on it. It's not just a slam dunk essay. Like there needs to be some more thought about that one. But the topic itself can work. It's just a matter of how you frame that topic. Jazakallah khair. Okay, Jazakallah khair for everyone. I think we got to the end. Let me just make sure there's nothing crazy in the chat. I think Ruhina's been covering the chat, so I'm gonna call it at that. Okay, Jazakallah khair, everyone. This was awesome. So great to have you all here. Hope you find your qibla, whether you do it with me, do it on your own. It's such a pleasure, and I'm always here to help and assist the Muslims, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.